So the channel is getting smaller. Again, the retail stores control, and they're getting pickier and pickier about how they control that space. Sales in retail are actually dropping. Last year, sales at retail have dropped 14% in the United States. I suspect that's true worldwide. Some of that certainly due to the economic crisis, but in general, buyer behavior is changing, and they're not going to the stores to buy games as much. Games cost a lot. They're not playing, and harder to discover great games because, again, the channel is controlled by these large stores. Online sales, however, are beginning to replace the store sales. So outlets like Steam, more people are buying games online and downloading, are starting to take over. What's interesting about that is that's essentially the casual model, where you get to download a game and pay for it and play it without having to go to a store and buy a game. As long as these games are very large on DVDs, however, I think that that's going to be a little bit limited because people don't have the patience to download for 4 or 5 hours to play a game typically. So we'll talk about casual games now. Casual games defined. So we're talking about the digital download. These are the games that are a little smaller. You download them. Typically, you have an hour to try the game and decide if you want to buy it or not. And after an hour, the game locks and you're not allowed to play anymore. This is typical of the games that we sell on Big Fish. It's a lower price. They're smaller games. I think we've sort of settled on an industry price of about $7 US on most sites. Some games are a little bit more, but that seems to be where we are now. Looking at the characteristics, it's a Darwinistic marketplace. What I mean by that is that games are found by players because players get to try the game for an hour for free without any purchase or any commitment. They get to decide what a good game is. We're not telling them. They're not making purchase decisions based on what's on a box cover or what they saw an advertisement for on TV. They're buying it because they liked it. What that does is it creates a true market where the buyers are out, the purchasers, the customers are actually telling us what they want. So that's what I mean by Darwinistic. A good game will do well, no matter the marketing campaign behind it, no matter where you sell it, it will do well. Smaller games, again, they cost less to make, so we're reducing our development costs. Development cost, like retail games, actually stops when the game is done, so the team can roll on to another project. And minimal marketing. One of the nice things about the casual space, and what's been true, increasingly true, is that the games are available on places that the customers know where to go. They don't have to get in the car and drive to Walmart or other stores, but they can always quickly go to bigfishgames.com or any of the other sites, and they see new content on a regular basis. So they know where to go to find fresh new content on a regular basis. And there is a constant supply of new content. So taking I did the same model essentially as before, the investment in building the game and then return on investment with your revenue. But I did this for a typical hit in the casual space. This is one of those typical sort of top 10 hits that we see. Again, the solid line here is your development cost, and you can see that it's a shorter development time. It's only about 6 months. Some are longer, some are shorter, but it's a blend of averages. It's about 6 months. And then your dashed line is your revenue. So you can see the development complete is here, and you're profitable here about a month and a half later. It's a very quick turnaround on your investment. You have a tendency to get your money back and pay for your development a lot faster. The profit at the end tends to be a higher percentage, so therefore the game is a little riskier to make. And the other thing that's interesting about this that I wanted to point out is that the model that I used is about a $200,000 investment. Now that's a little high. A lot of people and a lot of games are built for a lot less than that. Certainly, especially in Russia, we've seen much lower development costs. This is again a blend, and what I'm trying to show here is even in a fairly expensive downloadable game that they can still be quite profitable. Trends in the casual space. So casual is actually growing steadily still, and I'll show you a graph later that demonstrates that, but casual is still growing. It's a very healthy market. We've seen the consolidation of some of the weaker developers and distributors. There used to be a lot of portals and places where you could go to download games, free games here and this, and downloadable games there. A lot of them are going away in a lot of ways because they just, well, honestly, they didn't care about their customers as much as they should. And some of the weaker developers aren't quite surviving. So there's been a little bit of consolidation, but one of the things that's happened is that the user experience has gone up, in that the games are higher quality now, and the places that still sell games have a much tighter focus on customer service, and therefore it's a better purchasing experience for the customer. So let's talk about social games now. I'm talking, we're defining social games as these are the games or applications, as they're called, that are available on social platforms like Facebook, MySpace, High Five, Mikatake actually. They are typically free games. People get to play them for as long as they want for free. They have the entire game available to them. The way these games make money, however, is by selling virtual goods, power-ups, and extra features. One of the characteristics of a lot of these games is that while the game is free to play, there are some artificial roadblocks put in the game by the designers that encourage you to actually spend money to overcome those same roadblocks that they put in the game. Some of the other characteristics is that distribution and discovery is very difficult. In retail, you had to get the game on a shelf at a store. In casual, you have to get it to places like Big Fish Games and put it up on the front page. In social, you put it on Facebook, for instance, and then you hope people find it. And there's a couple of mechanisms that they use to find your game. One is the viral channel. We've all seen newsfeed after newsfeed about lost cows and lost sheep, and a friend of mine just bought new shoes for their character story life. That's one way. The other way is to buy advertisements on Facebook, and you see that there's 3 on the side. Play mobsters, play mafia wars, play whatever. Some of the marketing costs can be as high as $1 million a month, however. Development costs are initially low in social, which is great. The downside is that development must continue as long as the game is active. You need to continually throw more content in front of the player, and so that they don't hit the end of the game and then stop playing and don't come back. So you have to constantly keep the same game team is continually building the game even while the game is live. The low barrier to entry, so it costs very little to make the game. The APIs for Facebook are actually fairly easy to use. This has spawned thousands and thousands of game developers. So there's a lot of competition with some big companies, as well as a lot of 1- and 2-person companies. As a result, there's actually a very low success rate as a percentage. There's a lot of games, there's a lot of people. There's 86,000 applications on Facebook alone. There's more than that now, and there's more every day. The odds of being in the top 10 are pretty slim. And the platform isn't yours. Facebook controls their platform, High Five controls their, MySpace controls theirs. They have the right, and they exercise it frequently, to change the terms of service on a regular basis. So for instance, one of the things that they've been doing recently, Facebook has been under a lot of scrutiny about privacy issues. So they're changing the privacy rules. One of the things that they do right now that's affecting games is that they are getting a lot of complaints about the viral channels. There's too many posts about lost cows and lost sheep and new shoes, so they're clamping that down, and they're making it harder for developers to use those outlets. As I know a lot of social developers here are starting to run into that. And what happens is Facebook makes a new rule, then they tell you have 3 business days to adapt your game to the new business rule. And if you don't do it in 3 days, they will stop and they will turn off your game until you comply. And they can do this and have done this on a regular basis. It's not that they're evil. I'm not saying that they're bad. That they're trying to control their platform and make their customers happy. And hopefully if their customers are happy, then your customers are happy too. But what I'm pointing out and illustrating is that you don't control it. It can change day to day. It can change frequently. And your development team, which is focused on continually building a new game, now has to stop what they're doing, back up, and change the game to fit their new terms of service on a regular basis. And you don't always know that it's coming.